What could possibly lead a person to harm an innocent child, especially their own? This is the haunting question that lingers at the heart of one of America's most notorious true crime stories, the Caylee Anthony case. It's a story that has been dissected and discussed, yet remains shrouded in mystery, unsettling details, and mind-boggling questions. Who could do such a thing? And why? There are countless theories, each one as chilling as the last. But the truth is, we may never know the full extent of what transpired. The only thing we do know is that a young life was tragically cut short, and a family was irrevocably shattered. The Caylee Anthony story is not just a cautionary tale for parents, but a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the facade of a seemingly normal family. To understand this baffling case, we need to start from the very beginning. Caylee Marie Anthony was born on August 9, 2005, in Orlando, Florida. The sun-kissed city was a playground to this lively bundle of joy, who quickly became the apple of her family's eye. Caylee was a child of radiant smiles and infectious laughter, her vivacious presence filling every room she entered. The Anthony family, seemingly like any other, was composed of Caylee, her mother Casey, and her grandparents George and Cindy. They lived a life that appeared ordinary on the surface, with family outings, school events, and birthday parties. Caylee herself was a bubbly child, known for her love of singing and dancing. Yet, as we delve deeper into the life of Caylee Marie Anthony, we discover that not everything was as it seemed. This seemingly normal childhood was marred by hidden truths and unspoken tensions. But beneath this facade of normalcy, there lurked a dark secret. The Anthony family was not as picture-perfect as they appeared. Beneath the surface of smiles and laughter, there was a simmering pot of tension, a pressure cooker of familial issues that was just waiting to explode. Casey Anthony, the mother of the young, sweet Caylee, had a complicated relationship with her parents. It was a twisted tapestry of love, resentment, and frustration. Casey was often described as a wild child, rebelling against her parents' rules and expectations. She was known for her partying ways, often leaving Caylee with her parents while she lived her life with reckless abandon. Her parents, George and Cindy Anthony, had their own set of issues. George, a former detective, struggled with his daughter's rebellious attitude and her lack of responsibility towards Caylee. Cindy, on the other hand, was the doting grandmother, often stepping in to care for Caylee while Casey was out. But even Cindy was not blind to her daughter's shortcomings, often expressing her frustration and concern to friends and family. The relationship between Casey and her parents was strained, to say the least. There were heated arguments, accusations, and threats. The family was in turmoil, a ticking time bomb, with Caylee caught in the crossfire. Cindy, in particular, had a tumultuous relationship with Casey. They argued over Casey's lifestyle, her inability to hold down a job, and most importantly, her parenting. Cindy was deeply worried about Caylee's well-being, often stepping in to provide the stability and love that Casey seemed unable to give. The tension in the Anthony household was palpable. This was not a happy family. This was a family on the edge, teetering on the brink of disaster. The cracks were starting to show, the facade was beginning to crumble. And amidst all this, Caylee, the innocent little girl, was caught in the middle, oblivious to the storm that was brewing around her. These family troubles set the stage for the tragedy that was to come. The Anthony family, once a portrait of suburban normalcy, was now a family in turmoil, a family on the precipice of a tragedy that would shock the nation and change their lives forever. Caylee was last seen on June 16, 2008, but she wasn't reported missing until a month later. It was a typical summer day in Florida, but this day would mark the beginning of a mystery that would captivate the nation. Caylee Anthony, a bubbly toddler with her whole life ahead of her, vanished. The timeline of events surrounding her disappearance is puzzling to say the least. Caylee was last seen alive by her grandparents, George and Cindy Anthony, on June 16th. They would later testify that they saw their granddaughter leave their home with her mother, Casey. The next day, Casey was seen at a local Blockbuster with her boyfriend, but Caylee was nowhere in sight. From that point on, Casey's actions raised more questions than answers. Weeks passed without a trace of Caylee. Casey continued to live her life as though nothing was amiss. She partied, got a tattoo, and even participated in a hot body contest, all while her daughter was nowhere to be found. Yet it wasn't until July 15th, a full month after Caylee was last seen, that she was reported missing. And it wasn't Casey who called the police. It was Cindy, Caylee's grandmother, who had grown suspicious after not seeing her granddaughter for weeks. In a frantic 911 call, Cindy reported Caylee missing and expressed her fear that something terrible had happened. When police arrived at the Anthony home, they were met with a chilling sight. Caylee's room was exactly as she had left it, untouched and eerily still. The initial police investigation was met with a wall of deceit. Casey spun a web of lies, claiming that Caylee had been kidnapped by a babysitter named Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez. Yet, as investigators dug deeper, they discovered that no such person existed. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the search for Caylee Anthony became a national obsession. But as the search for Caylee intensified, so did the suspicion around her mother, Casey. The investigation into Caylee's disappearance revealed a web of lies spun by Casey. As detectives delved deeper, it became apparent that the truth was elusive and shrouded in deception. Each story Casey told was marred by inconsistencies, leading investigators down a convoluted path of half-truths and outright lies. Casey's first account was that Caylee had been kidnapped by a nanny, yet no evidence of this nanny's existence could be found. She then claimed she had been conducting her own investigation, trying to find her daughter without involving the police. But as time wore on, her explanations grew increasingly implausible, and her actions even more suspicious. One of the most damning pieces of evidence was her failure to report Caylee's disappearance. A whole month had passed before the authorities were alerted. This was not the behavior of a concerned, loving mother, but rather that of someone with something to hide. The situation took a chilling turn when cadaver dogs indicated the presence of human decomposition in the trunk of Casey's car. Forensic analysis confirmed the presence of chloroform, a substance known to be used in criminal activity to incapacitate victims. Then, the discovery that sent shockwaves across the nation: the skeletal remains of a small child found in a wooded area near the Anthony home. The remains were later positively identified as those of Caylee. Her tiny body had been discarded in a trash bag, a heartbreaking end to a life that had barely begun. Each piece of evidence pointed to a grim conclusion. The web of lies, the failure to report the disappearance, the distressing discovery in the car trunk, and the tragic end of Caylee's life, all painted a harrowing picture. With the mounting evidence, Caylee Anthony was charged with the murder of her daughter. The peaceful facade of the Anthony family was shattered, replaced by a disturbing reality that left everyone questioning. How could a mother do this to her own child? The trial of Caylee Anthony was nothing short of a media circus. The courtroom was a hotbed of tension and emotion, as all eyes were on the young mother accused of the unthinkable. The defense, led by the tenacious Jose Baez, argued that Caylee's death was not a murder, but a tragic accident that spiraled out of control due to fear and panic. They painted a picture of a dysfunctional family filled with secrets and lies. Public sentiment was heavily against Caylee. People followed the case religiously, dissecting every piece of evidence, every statement, every tear shed in the courtroom. It was a trial that became a national obsession, a story that gripped the country with its mix of mystery, tragedy, and scandal. Yet when the verdict was announced, it sent shockwaves across the nation. Despite the public outcry, Caylee Anthony was acquitted of the murder charge. The story that had captivated so many ended not with a bang, but with a gasp. The verdict left a nation in shock. But the story didn't end there. This case, with its twists and turns, continued to echo in the halls of justice and in the hearts of people. In the aftermath of the trial, society was left grappling with a whirlwind of emotions, questions, and speculations. Theories multiplied like wildfire, each one attempting to fill the void left by the unresolved mystery. The impact on the Anthony family was profound and far-reaching. Their lives, once ordinary, were now forever intertwined with a tragedy that had gripped a nation. The fallout was a heavy burden to bear, their every move scrutinized under the relentless glare of public opinion. The family was left to navigate a world forever changed by their unimaginable loss. The Caylee Anthony case remains one of the most controversial and heart-wrenching stories of our time.